Hey everybody, today's winning characteristics walkthrough video will be covering SOFI or SOFI technologies. Thought this was a very interesting chart, especially because of the winning characteristic it displayed today, which is the highest volume ever. So when we see something like this, at least personally, I immediately want to put it on my focus list, especially when we get 69 million shares transacted on the open market. These 69 million shares obviously says that multiple institutions wanted shares on this day and that something in the fundamental story has changed where institutions have to start accumulating shares instead of distributing shares. So again, once we see this characteristic, we want to put it on a watch list and start to track the action. What we can do after the market, which is obviously what I'm trying to do right now, is go and figure out the character of the stock. And so I want to start with looking at the relative strength, how it's performed versus the market, and kind of build a profile there. So obviously we've seen large periods of outperformance, relatively speaking. We have a huge run up here, a die down, a good run up here, a die down, and now we're starting to see kind of what, the beginnings of this sort of pattern where we get a breakout over relative highs and some strong slope upticks in the RS line. And I think something interesting here, which I wrote up over here, is the current RS line reaches a new relative high with price. So that just confirms price's move based on the action in the market. And so if we zoom in here to relative strength, which I think is a pretty important little nuance, we see the SPX start to head down and SOFI, relatively speaking, blasting up. So I think this is a pretty interesting little characteristic that we can start to spot and understand that there's something going on here. Whether it materializes or not, we don't know, but we want to put ourselves in the position to catch any sort of move if the market pressure lifts and SOFI wants to blast off. So yeah, now that we've gotten comfortable and built an understanding of what relative strength may do, we can look to see, based on the price and volume action, what the character of the stock is as well. And so, we have this huge bar. I don't know what data this is printing from TradingView, but this looks like IPO day, blast off into highs from IPO, and then a die down in a large base. We see another trending period, kind of tries to consolidate, then gaps down and dies. And so we kind of see throughout this stock there's a lot of little gap downs, which is worrisome off the bat, but this area over here where we can kind of get a gap up and hold, close the gap, but then further gap up, there's some sort of character change taking place in the stock, and we want to be cognizant of this and try to track it as best we can. So now we know this stock can trend in periods in which it's being accumulated. We want to see if it's gonna tightly consolidate here and move up, or try to consolidate like over here and then ultimately die down and fail. So that's just one scenario or a couple scenarios we have to be understanding of. So another interesting point here, based on the price and volume characteristics and relationships, is that we get this large gap down on volume this day, and then average volume, this black line, has been steadily increasing ever since. So there's some sort of institutional transactions going on where something in the stock has changed, and compared to this period, there's huge character change. So yeah, average volume increasing is also a huge winning characteristic because it just says, hey, there's more institutions than prior being transacting in the stock. And so like I said, we have another gap down, and then we come into the key moving averages and can't really get over them, but then we gap over the key moving averages, hold the key moving averages, and see another kind of kicker Matt Caruso setup here, gap to new relative highs. So like I said, we've seen the character of the stock, but now we're trying to see some character change and see if this gap is real. And another thing that we want to be cognizant of is when we see these highest volume in a year since IPO ever, whatever the scenario may be, we're looking for follow-on, follow-through buying to come into the name. because likely whoever has been accumulating on this day with 69 million shares is going to come back over the next couple of sessions or the next couple of weeks and continue to buy. So we want to, when institutions are buying, we want to find the best spots in terms of our risk management, and also try to ride that wave, because they're ultimately the ones who are going to drive the price of the stock higher. So now that we've covered relative strength, price, and volume, we can move on to the fundamental side of the name. And so first and foremost, it's a sales-driven name. Let's jump over to MarketSmith really quick and go through that. Obviously, 80% strong quarter-over-quarter sales growth, followed up by 64%. Super nice. No EPS numbers, but that's not the end of the world, especially because it's looking like we're trending here as to go positive over the next couple of years. Something that's super important to me is the increase in funds here. So we're seeing a 49 from December 20 to 97 by the most recent quarter. And with the most recent price action, I'm pretty interested to see that number be heavily increased over the next couple of quarters, just based on the accumulation we can see on the chart. Moving on to the group, we're looking at 3 over 197, obviously super strong in the finance and consumer loans area. We have Upstart, or UPST, another leader in the market in the group, so that's good. We have some group strength there. I think LC is also another one, just not listed here. So that's good. We have the wind at our backs in terms of the group point of view. And then finally, we're going to look at the IBT IOF markets to build extra conviction. And so that's data offered by Traderline, which is super nice. And if we just hop over here, on the block market, we saw a large block before the original gap up that we are thinking is going to be character change. So we're looking for this area to hold. It does on weakness, and then we get up and out really quickly here. If we look over to the options side, we can see ever since this large gap down, which is confirmed on the price and volume analysis we already did, there's been a lot of transactions on the IOF market. So, you got bullish premium over 40 million. So there's a lot of money flowing into this stock. We just have to find the best spots and try to, determine a feel for the trend that could potentially develop here over the next couple of sessions or weeks. So that's pretty much it. That'll wrap up the SOFI winning characteristics walkthrough. Please let me know if you guys think I'm missing anything or would like to see anything else in future videos. Thanks.